Today is going to be a really special episode because we have two incredibly dynamic women who have grown a business and created a brand, which is super cool. But we're going to hear about how they went from kind of just investing whatever they had themselves into their business to grow an incredible business and get rounds of funding. So you want to listen in on this. One thing that I also want to say is the brand that they have created weaves in their story and their vibe, like this cool vibe so well. And this is something that I talk about quite a bit is when you create a brand, when you create a business, how can you incorporate you into it and what lights you up and what gets you excited? So when people see it, you stand out. And these two women have done that so eloquently and so in such a cool way that I can't wait for you to check it out. So join me in welcoming Jules Weldon and Stace Pierce to the show. Thanks for being here, ladies.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so
We're excited
much.
to be here, Midori. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, okay, first of all, how do you pronounce the brand? Is it OME gear or is it, yep, just like that?
OME. So it stands for Oceans, Mountains, Earth Gear, or Outdoors Made Easy. So it's kind of a play on both of those.
Cool. So yeah, I was checking out your website, looking into you a little bit, and you can tell when you read it that, or when you're looking at the brand, they don't take themselves. You guys don't take yourselves too seriously. You're about living your. I feel like it made me feel like it's about living your best life. What lights you up, and I love, Jules, that you stated, if there was one person I had to be around on I don't remember if it was an island or all the time, you're like, it would be Stace because she makes great cocktails. I'm like, and that said, I just love that.
Yeah, thank you so much. That means so much that's your perception of our website, because that's what you saw, and because that's exactly who we are. Life is way too short to A, take yourself too seriously, or B, not go after what's in your heart. And so I love it. That's your perception of our website. So thanks.
Yeah, it came through really easily, but you have cool products. So talk to us a little bit about the journey. What inspired you and what got you to where you are? And we're going to break that down too, because you guys have done you ladies have done, a number of things. So we're going to break that down, but talk to us a little bit about the journey. What inspired you to start this business?
So I know we have only a few minutes here. So
this is Stace talking for those who
are listening.
Who aren't listening. I mean, who are only listening. So the story actually did not start with Jules and myself. It actually started back in 1998 with Jules's parents. And they were on the boardwalk of Bethany Beach, Delaware, and they watched their mom struggle on the beach. Now, they had a family of 6 kids, so they knew the struggle. So they watched this mom at the end of the day, and she was trying to get the kids off the beach with all their stuff. And they were like, the beach should just not be this hard. The beach is pretty much a free place for people to go have fun and enjoy your time. But so often we try to go to the beach and it's just a struggle to get on and off the beach. Because we have to bring everything, especially when you have kids. And so they were like, so they went up to their hotel room and actually napkin sketched a 2-in-1 concept. It was a lounge chair that flipped up into a dolly. So you carry all your stuff, then you had a seat when you got there. But they just never took it to market. They got patents on it and everything, and just didn't know how to take it to market.
And that was before beach carts and wagons were all the rage.
Right.
Like, and everybody's like, what tire works? Like, that was before all of that, where my parents came up with this.
Yeah. And so then
I'm so sorry. I put it on Do Not Disturb. I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry.
A way of breaking through.
Yeah.
So then fast forward, well, they had to go back to their real lives, and they owned a bakery. The bakery's still in existence to this day, over 50 years in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is where Jules is from, that her brother now owns and runs. So they shelved it, and about 12 years later, Jules had been working for one of the top 4 consulting firms in the world, and as a business consultant, and just needed something to call her own. Got tired of working 80 hours a week for somebody else, and just said, I just need something. So she called up her dad, and I asked him, if she could have his invention and try to take it to market? And he was like, absolutely. And she always says, and I need to say this, her dad is one of her heroes, but now one of my heroes, and just a salt of the earth gentleman. So she partnered with the business partner. They redesigned it, partnered with a manufacturer out of Hickory, North Carolina, and just didn't work. It didn't, the partnership just didn't mesh out. And Jules ended up walking away from our own company in 2014. But we lived at the beach, so this idea just never went away. And I was working for corporate America. Jules actually, and I always want to put this in because it shows the struggles and the heartache of something that you feel like failed. She actually went and worked on the shrimp docks in Charleston, South Carolina for $10 an hour. Went from being the owner of her own company, and everybody wanted their product. I mean, it would have been wildly successful if she had partnered with the right people, but went and worked for $10 an hour delving out shrimp just to be around the salt of the earth people and heal her soul. But about 9 months in, Jules and I were like, all right, I'm tired of you smelling like shrimp. There's only so many shrimp recipes I can make. So we had started a coaching firm, a business coaching firm, and we were like, let's just kind of focus on that. I was still working in corporate America, but this idea of this beach cart transformer thing just never went away. And we, like I said, we lived at the beach, and we would see all the junk at the end of the boardwalks. And so in 2017, we were like, all right, there's something here. So we really need to do something with this. And so into 2017, 2018, we partnered with a design firm, put in about $350,000 to create the design that we wanted, and with our first initial prototype. And we were off to the races, incorporated in 2018 as OME Gear, Oceans Plus Mountains Equals Earth.
So I want to go back for a second, because you mentioned how, Jules, you started this business and it didn't work. It failed, for whatever reasons. But then you went and you worked at a shrimp company. And I'm guessing at that point, or actually, no, what I want to do is ask you, like, what was going through, how are you feeling? How did you deal with it? How did you get through that challenge? Because as women, what I hear all the time from working with women, women entrepreneurs for 30 years, is that we beat the crap out of ourselves. And if we stay there, it's a bad place. But that's one of the biggest fears of why women don't push themselves to that higher level to really stretch and achieve the things that they want to do. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was going through your mind and through your head at that point?
Great question. So this morning I was journaling, and I don't do it all the time, but when I do it, it's because I've got some really things that I need to get out on paper. And I listed out the key moments in my life over the last 52 years, the highlights and the lowlights. And one of them was that moment where I walked away from my own company. And the reason why it was so, I don't even know that I have the right word for it, but heavy, was because I was walking away from my dream. But more than that, I was walking away from my parents' dream that I said I was going to pick back up and revive. And so the failure of that was real. But like everybody says, failure is not really failure, right? If you choose for it not to be failure, failure is defined by how you get up from it. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I have this, and maybe some of your listeners can relate to this. Hopefully all of them can. I have this innate calling in me to influence as many people as I possibly can for good in this world. It's just an innate drive in me, and it's a calling. Mm-hmm. And when you've been called to something, I believe Stace and I have been called to something, it's never about a company. It's never about a success. It's never about a failure, but it's about being true to your one purpose on this earth. And I believe we all have that. I believe we've been very uniquely crafted, handcrafted to bring to this earth a certain purpose. And so the biggest thing that we can do is find that purpose and then live in it. And so my failures, and I put that in air quotes, have been many. I mean, they've been many, and some that, I'm embarrassed to even talk about. But they've all been part of defining who I am for this moment today. And so as a result of that, I'm forever grateful for that failure of the first try at this company, because for me, it was a greenhouse of learning. I mean, literally, it was better than an MBA that I could have ever gotten in business, because I was on the front lines, dealing with personalities, dealing with conflict, dealing with feeling misunderstood. I mean, so many different things, but also getting successes in the midst of it, and then having to walk away from all of that. It was a really hard decision. And so when Stace said I went to the shrimp docks, I didn't care about the money. It wasn't about whether I make $10 an hour or $300 an hour. To me, it was about being around genuine, salt of the earth people who weren't doing something for money. They were doing shrimping because they loved it and they wanted to give that gift to the world. And that's what I needed to be around. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I answered your question, but those are my thoughts.
I think you answered it beautifully, because that's it, right? Throughout your life, haven't you met people where you're like, oh, I love talking to them every time because they just kind of ground me. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we're trying to impress each other. We can just be. And that's what it sounds like to me, is that you went through this tumultuous, heartbreaking period. Yeah. One of the biggest fears that many of us have when we're starting a business or growing a business or trying to make it. Doesn't even have to be a business. It could be a career, it could be anything. But then making the conscious choice to go be around people who made you feel okay and kind of get you back to that place where, you know what, this is our life. This is, it's okay. That's the way it makes me when I hear you say that. Some of us go and meditate. Some of us go, and some people go and drink. Some people do drugs, whatever it is, but you found a healthy way to light yourself back up and be around those who made you feel the way that you should feel. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's really kind of critical for all of us to remember.
Yeah. Thanks. So we're writing a book right now, and it's a chapter of the story. Yeah. It's not the whole book. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's what we have to remember, is when you read a book, some chapters you're like, ugh, I just want to get through this one so I can find out what's coming next. And that was a chapter of my life, and a very important one, a very defining one for me, but defining in a really good way.
Okay, so now let's shift a little bit. So that was kind of the low, but now you have some amazing things that are going in your business. So I want to talk about that. So you two come together and you say, we're doing this. We're doing this again, and we're going to do it differently. So talk to us about this stage of your business.
Well, I think one way we had to reestablish ourselves in the consumer market was how we marketed ourselves. I mean, it was created at the beach, but it wasn't just about the beach. It was literally about making outdoors easy for people. And that was the whole premise of this. And so it's not just the beach, it's not just the lake. It's anytime you need to carry something and have a seat when you get there. So children's sporting events, tailgating at football games, or going to baseball games, wherever, camping, because it even folds out into a camping cot. And so it was making a product that was sustainable for the people using it. They can use it in multiple different ways and take away a lot of the junk they already have in their house. And so so when we wrote out, when Jules and I really sat down and said, okay, what do we want this product to do? Because that was her last company, it was pigeonholed to being at the beach only. And so we were like, let's open it up to the masses. And so, that was something that we feel like that was a step in the right direction towards success, is let's open it up to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Florida or California, you can use this product. and then and this time I feel like another step in the right direction towards success was we were partnered together and we brought in the right team. Now, has everyone we brought in been the right person? No, but for the most part, our core team is still here since we started in 2018. Our core, the people we started with. And I think that is because we all share the same values, and bringing in those people in your team with the same values who get your vision will propel you towards success any day. And I think those are two big stepping stones that has brought us to where we are today. Is our core values are three: our core values, our messaging, and our team. And then it is, and even on the hardest days where we feel like we're failing, we can look back at those three things and say, no, we're on the right track.
I talk about that a lot in my business called Fuel the Fire, and core values are always a big part of it, because when you have strong core values that are clear and they're being used throughout your whole business, not just on paper, right? And then also the people that you're going to bring into your company can see where you're going. I call it your summit goal mapping framework. Other people use OKRs, EOS, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But where you have your summit, what's it look like? What are you building? Why are you building it? What are the core values of it? And you weave all that in, you bring in a higher value person who's in alignment with your company. And therefore, everyone's more fired up, right? Because they're excited about what you're doing. I'm assuming that those who come into your company are not people who are not outdoorsy, that are, I'm guessing they're, grounded and cool and probably like a cocktail, and so, and that's who you want to be around. Those are the people who light you up. And then when you come together, there's a synergy that happens and things compound and it's more exciting. So that is really, really critical as we grow our businesses, is to make sure our culture, our core values, what we're about, where we're going, is clear to everyone who's coming in, because it just naturally brings in the right people. Is that what you have found?
Oh, 100%. It's funny that you say about the cocktail, because one of our criteria is, would we want to have a cocktail with them? And it's not about the cocktail. You can have a mocktail or whatever, but it's about the act of sharing something together, right? And if we get on a first interview and we don't want more, then they're not a good fit.
Right.
If we're not like going, gosh, I can't wait to talk to that person again, then they're not a good fit for our company. And not that they're not a good person. It's just that they're not a good fit with us, because the first years of building your company, your team is literally everything. The people that you choose to be a part of that group, to build it out, especially the places where we're going and the goals that we have to have people that we are stoked about being in the trenches with us, right? That like, if I'm in the trench, like anybody on our team, I want right next to me. And so that's a criteria for sure. I mean, as tongue in cheek and, funny as that may be, it's, would we want to have a cocktail or mocktail or whatever with them?
We can call that a cocktail approach to hiring. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's funny. We, as a team, whenever we travel, we'll go to a trade show, whatever, we all stay in the same Airbnb. We always get a big enough one for everyone. So no one is you're never going back to your hotel room and feeling alone. We all come together. We all eat together. I do all the cooking. We all have cocktails or mocktails together, or coffee. And that is ingrained into our culture, that we tell people from the very beginning that when we go places, we all stay together, we all eat together, because we want that family feel in our company. Our company is built around families, getting outdoors and doing things together. So why wouldn't we do that as our team? And in that way, if we can talk about our day, we can decompress, we can get crazy, we can laugh, and we can cry, whatever, but we're there together as a team. And so that's super important to us. And so that person also has to be able to stay in an Airbnb with us.
Yeah, that goes along with the whole cocktail methodology, right? Yeah, everything's intentional. It sounds like when I'm listening to you talk, everything is very intentional on how you build it. So I want to go back a little bit before we go forward. before we started recording, you had mentioned how when you first started the company, you got a van, and you did some almost like guerrilla marketing. Can you talk to us about that? How did you get your name out there? How did you get some buzz going?
Well, it actually starts with a hard story. So we got to a point where we didn't have any money. So we've raised $2 million to date. Some of that's our own funding. When Stace talked about the design being 350,000, I need your listeners to know we didn't have a big bank account where we paid for that. That was investor money that we went out and raised, and through friends and family. And so we got to a point where it was during COVID, and lots of different elements to this story, but we got to a point where we didn't have any money, and our manufacturer, we couldn't go over because it was COVID. We couldn't go over and check the product. And so anyway, so he just, we had a great relationship, still do have a great relationship with him. And he sent over our first shipload of product, but we couldn't pay him because we didn't have the money. We'd put a deposit down, but we couldn't pay the balance. And so it was Christmas in 2020, and we just recently did a TED Talk on this, but we were broke, literally, and broken. We didn't have money to pay for our product that was on the water coming over. And so right before Christmas, no presents under the tree, just to set the stage. I mean, it was bleak. It was a hard time. And I looked at Stace and I said, "How much do you believe in this company?" And she started crying, and she said, "With all of my heart." And I looked back at her, started crying myself. And I said, "I think we need to sell our house." And she said, didn't even hesitate, which is one of the things that I just admire about Stace. She's on board. She said, "All right, let's do it." It sold within 4 days. I don't even think we listed it. It sold. And we were like, "Oh, great." We didn't think about, like, what are we going to do if it sells that quickly? So we were like, all right, well, I mean, why don't we hit the road? I mean, it was really that spontaneous, where we're like, lots of people are buying RVs. We can finance an RV. It's cheaper than a house payment. Wrap it in our branding and just hit the road, and just, build our company one wander at a time. So that's what we did. So we hit the road in 2021. And we're on the road for 2 years. And we went from East Coast to West Coast and back and up and down and all over, and went to trade shows and festivals, and as they kind of came back online. But really, it was one relationship at a time, which is who Stace and I are. Literally, that's how we build things, is one genuine relationship at a time. So we came off of the road in May of this year, in anticipation of a really large investment that's coming in. But oh gosh, we wouldn't trade that experience on the road for anything. It was amazing.
And I love that story because I told you earlier, I was listening to an interview with Jesse Itzler, who is an amazing entrepreneur. He's done incredible things. He is crazy, but he shared a story about when he first started, when he had nothing, and he was willing to give up he wanted to be a DJ, or he was doing lyrics, and he was willing to have an investment of $10,000 with this gentleman. And in return, he would give 10% of all of his future endeavors to this gentleman. So selling it for $10,000, right? Then he went and talked to someone's dad, who was a very intelligent entrepreneur. And he said to him, "Jesse, do you believe that you will build this, be really successful?" And Jesse said, "Yeah, I totally believe that I can be." And the guy got so mad, he threw his notebook on the ground. He said, "That's not what I asked you. I said, will you?" So it was will versus can. And that's what I'm hearing with you two, is that was your decision. It was not can we, will we? And the answer was yes. And that was a definitive yes from both of you. So it's like, okay, so now what are we going to do? We're going to make this work. And when you have that mindset, that's when you stay laser focused. That's when things start to happen, because you find a way to make it happen, versus yeah, I can. Yeah, I can go run a marathon. Yeah, maybe. It's a mindset shift. And that's such a great story where you illustrated that.